So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how we will IPO chart the Hangman game that you just observed. So firstly, we start off with our headings. Then, I guess the first very obvious input is the letter or the guess that the user is putting in, the player is putting in. And when the letter is guessed, we check if the letter is in the word. If it is, update the puzzle. If not, update the hangman, okay? And also add two guessed letters. Now in the output, what is being shown is the updated hangman, if it is updated, and also the updated puzzle. Now, when we do an IPO chart for a, let's say a game like this, and we put in the first most obvious row, it will sometimes prompt us to realize we're missing another input. For example, when I put in this process, it occurred to me, hang on, where am I getting word from? Okay, is the user putting in the word? So let's say we were to make this a computer game, and the user plays Hangman and they choose new game, the word is automatically chosen for them and it's placed in a puzzle for them. So where did that word come from? Well, most logically speaking, the word is entered, okay, by the teacher or the administrator. So we save word to word bank. Okay, we potentially have a word bank. We wouldn't have me enter one word and then you play the game for that word and then I'll enter a new word. I'll probably enter a list of 100 words and I'll make the game available to you. So as the administrator, when I'm adding words in, I could be putting in a word and then I save it, and the output could be a list of words to show me what words are in the database at the moment. It's like that I keep adding. Now at this point, I might also add something called difficulty, because with every word, there's a different difficulty level associated with it. Let's say the word trap would be easier than the word entrapment, depending on, I guess, the difficulty the user selects later. Okay, we would then retrieve the words that match that difficulty. So that now has informed me for this section when the user enters. Okay, sorry. Let me start again. So let's go back to our scenario of we have the splash screen, Hangman 101, and then the user clicks new game. So that process, or that is an input. The clicking of a button or the pressing the enter key to start a game is an input. So we can call that new game request as an input item or a data item that's of the input type, if that makes sense. And at that point, when I click new game, I might also have a screen or a little option buttons that say easy, medium, or hard, right? So then the game knows what words to load from the word bank. So when I create a new game, or when I press new game, the computer should then find a word from, I should put here a random word from word bank that matches the difficulty. Okay, then I will display puzzle or create puzzle based on length of word. Okay, then what else? I might also set up the game screen, okay, with, so there might be a display of the letters guessed section at the bottom of the screen, or I might want to do some things with the screen before I show it to the user. So at this point in my output, I have the puzzle shown to them. Oh, I also want to set up games, so that I'll just put here like e.g. Hangman graphic. So the user sees the puzzle, the Hangman graphic, as well as maybe at this point we don't have the letters guessed, but we might have a letters guessed section. So this, all three, could be called game screen, but we just want to be more specific so we can better understand what we're trying to do here. Okay. Now, so let's say we are nearly done with our letters guessing. So we've guessed all the letters in this puzzle and we know what the word is. Okay, so we don't want to enter another letter. We actually want to enter our guess. Okay, so we can call this word guess, right? I might have a button that allows me to say guess word, and I click on it. I actually put in the word I think this puzzle is. So at that point, I'm going to just compare word guess with current game word or puzzle word. Let's just keep with our same terminology. Current puzzle word. If there is a match, show the win screen. If it's not a match, what do I want to do? I want to update Hangman. Okay, so I either show the win screen or the Hangman graphic. And at this stage, you could put all there. Updated Hangman graphic. Okay. So I think that's pretty good for now. Okay. So this is a very rough IPO chart for the Hangman game. Now that you have an understanding of IPO charts, you can create data flow diagrams. So a data flow diagram is described in the software design and development course specifications. So it represents a system as a number of processes that together form a single system. Okay. Now, the symbols that we use in a data flow diagram are these. So a circle represents a process. Okay. Processes use inputs to generate outputs, and inputs and outputs are shown using data flows. So right there, we already have the three keywords from an IPO chart: inputs, outputs, and process. Okay, so you can see how an IPO chart feeds into your ability to create a data flow diagram. Again, we're trying to, we're still in the first stage of the design process, so we're defining and understanding the problem. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how does a game like Hangman work in order to maybe improve it, or maybe we just want to reverse engineer it. But we're still in just trying to define and understand the problem. However, data flow diagrams are also used in the next stage when you're planning and designing a solution. So back to this. So we have process, circle for process, arrows, curved arrows, mind you, for data flows. Note that the arrows are not double-ended. Rectangles are external entities. Okay, so an external entity simply means someone or something that is external to your system. They might provide data to the system or receive data from the system. So entities are some things like student, teacher, receptionist, administration assistant, okay, bank. Okay, the next thing is data store. So it's an open-ended rectangle, and a data store can be represented either open-ended this way or open-ended that way. It can be an electronic file or non-computer storage, so even a filing cabinet can be represented like this, or a database, okay? Now you can go into the next video to see how we're going to create a data flow diagram for our Hangman game. I'm just going to use a digital platform to create a data flow diagram. You don't need to. You can just hand sketch it in your books for now. You won't need to learn to use this until a bit later. But basically, based on what we've learned, if we want to create a data flow diagram for our Hangman, the inputs actually become our data flows, represented as data flows in the DFD. A DFD is short for data flow diagram, okay? Outputs are also arrows, and processes are circles. So let's just start with the first row. Okay, we know we have an input of word and difficulty. Who are we getting this input from? The external entity. That's correct, if you said that. And the external entity in this case is the teacher. Okay. Oops. Now, oops. I actually want this to be a curved line. So I'll draw that. Like that. Now the teacher puts in oh, right, I forgot. Drag and drop. Okay, the teacher puts in, so I'm going to add text. How do I add text? This, yeah, double click. The word and difficulty, so we just separate it with commas. So this indicates these two are separate data items that are being passed into a process that we use a circle to represent. Okay. Save word to word bank. So now, whenever we see save word to word bank, it means we need an arrow that feeds into a data store. Okay, and the data store, I know this doesn't look very much like the one in syllabus, but it's the closest thing we have here, an open-ended sort of rectangle. And I call this word bank. Okay, and what am I saving here? The word and the difficulty. Okay, now in the output, for the output I've got word list. Okay, so I might want another process. So after saving, I might say, okay, retrieve, no, sorry, okay, I never want to use verbs in my data flows. Data flows should just describe data, which is static, not static, but which are nouns. They're not, you shouldn't be using action words to describe data. So I might get back word list from word bank. Okay. So I could either do it this way, where I have a process display word list. Okay. And then the word list goes back to the teacher. Now, bear in mind, we can't have an arrow that goes from a data store to a teacher. We don't do that in data flow diagrams. Any data that is passed from entity to entity or data store to entity and vice versa have to pass through a process. Okay, so if you stuck a process in between here, then it's all good. But in this case, we don't need to. So this is sort of what we want to represent here. Okay. Just fix up this arrow. Now, getting more squiggly. Okay, next. Now, I think to be more logical, I might change the order of this to be, oops. New game so firstly we request a new game, okay, before we guess letters, right? So who initiates new game request? Usually I would say it's the student or the player. So we want to say player, that's fine too. The player puts in a new game request, and that might trigger a process called, so you could call it, okay, so in this case we've said find a random word from the word bank. Okay, so let's just try and follow what we've got. So find random word from word bank. Okay, we don't need to write from word bank because the data flow is going to show us that we are accessing the word bank anyway. So I'm going to put an arrow here now. Now our random word is not really that random because firstly it needs to match the difficulty, oops, entered by the player. So the player, remember, don't forget, they put a new game request, comma, difficulty, oops. Comma, difficulty, oops. Okay, and from the word bank, matching words return. Okay, and then in find random word, we do something from the words that return. We find a random one, and then thus after finishing that process, we go word. Okay, and we actually create puzzle. So we can put a circle here. Create puzzle. Okay, then what else? Okay, create puzzle based on length of word. Yep. Then set up the game screen. So the puzzle, so once we've created the puzzle, we might pass that actual puzzle to set up game screen so that that process knows to display that puzzle. Let's do a copy and paste. And then once we set up the game screen, we are going to show it to the user. So what are we showing to the user? We're showing them the game screen, but also specifically the puzzle. See, I'm getting this from here now. See, this is an output. Anything that's displayed back, either on the screen or printed out. Oops. So I want to update my data flow diagram. The arrow going back to the player is the puzzle. The hangman, let me just stop pressing enter. Hangman graphic and the letters guessed section. Okay. I wonder if shift enter would fix this. Yep. Okay. Shift enter. Okay. So that is a bit better, isn't it? Now what I want you guys to do is to data flow diagram these other two rows, please. Have a go. Thanks for watching.